Hello, my name is Nadia Nurafida. I'm from class 07 SMJA 002 in class International Financial Management. Today, I want to present my presentation. I hope you will enjoy my presentation. Thank you. Today, I would like to explain two examples of intervention that a central bank of a country can do. Before I start the presentation, let me tell you about central bank. A central bank is a public institution that manages the currency of country or group of a country and control the money supply. Literally, the amount of money in circulation. The main objective of many central banks are also required by law to act in support of full employment. In Indonesia, we have Bank Indonesia as a central bank. Meanwhile, the United States is the Federal Reserve. So now I will explain the first example. How central bank intervention can stimulate the U.S. economy. Based on the graph, I'm going to show you the direct intervention and indirect intervention that the United States Central Bank did to maintain the United States economic growth. Before that, let me explain what direct intervention is. Direct intervention is the situation where the central bank of a country conducts monetary policy to maintain economic growth and low inflation. On the graph, we can see that through a direct intervention, the United States Central Bank uses its dollar reserve to purchase foreign currency in the foreign exchange market to control the value of the US dollar. The Federal did the direct intervention to weaken their currency and to stimulate foreign demand for products. In other words, United States dollar are depreciated against other currency. That situation, a depreciated US dollar, make United States imports become more expensive and decrease. Meanwhile, United States export increase. The increase in United States export give advantage to United States-based firms to sell their products. Thus, firms may increase the price of their product since foreign competitor firms are reduced. When the foreign firm is reduced, large circulation of dollar and rising price of domestic product result in higher United States inflation. Therefore, the growth of the United States economy is increasing. Okay, next, indirect intervention is a situation where a country's central bank influences economic factors that can affect the value of a country's currency. When those factors are being controlled, the exchange rate can be affected. On the graph, we can see that the Federal reduced United States interest rates as their indirect intervention. The federal lowering the interest rates may be due to the slowing economic growth. A lower interest rate can make the US dollar weaken against other currency. This lower interest rate also lower financing costs that will increase the borrowing and investing the US. In other words, it can be encourage firms and individuals to borrow, invest, and spend more money. The increase in borrowing and spending in the US could increase the US economic growth. Next, I am going to explain how central bank intervention can reduce inflation. Once again, the central bank can make direct or indirect intervention to maintain their country's economy. For the first example, we know that the intervention made by the Federal Reserve can result in higher inflation. So, here we are going to discuss what intervention that Federal uses or makes to reduce inflation. For direct intervention, the Federal may use foreign currency reserve to purchase dollar. That purchase meant strengthening that US dollar against currency. In other words, the US dollar becomes appreciated. That situation can increase the purchasing power of local consumers and firms that buy inventories or supplies from other countries. The strong currency could also force domestic firms to refrain from increasing the price of their products due to neck competition with foreign competitor firms. It means that the cost of United States import decreases and the market becomes competitive, since the United States firms need to keep their price at a lower benchmark. So, to make things equal and cure high inflation, the Federal lowered the country's overall inflation. However, it should be noted that strong currency might increase unemployment because foreign products become quite affordable or less expensive. For indirect intervention, the Federal Reserve decided to increase the US interest rate. The Federal can tailor its monetary policy to encourage or discourage people from borrowing, spending, and investing. A higher federal funds rate means more expensive borrowing costs, which can reduce demand among banks and other financial institutions to borrow money. Who benefit the most when interest rates increase? The financial sector has historically been among the most sensitive to change in interest rates, with profit margins that expand a right climb. Entities like banks, insurance companies, brokerage firms, and money managers generally benefit from higher interest rates. Direct Number 1. Direct intervention as a policy tool. Central bank attempts to weaken their currency under some conditions and strengthen it under others. In essence, the exchange rate becomes a tool. like tax law and the money supply, that the government can use to achieve its desired economic objective. Influence of a weak home currency. Central banks implement direct intervention to weaken their home currency to stimulate foreign demand for products. A weak dollar, for example, can substantially boost U.S. export and U.S. jobs. In addition, it may also reduce U.S. imports. The top part of exhibit show how the Federal Reserve can use direct intervention to affect the value of dollar in order to stimulate the U.S. economy. Also, a weak currency can reduce unemployment at home. It can lead to higher inflation. A weak dollar makes U.S. import more expensive, thereby creating a competitive advantage for U.S. firms that sell their product in the United States. Some U.S. firms may increase their price when the competition from foreign firms is reduced, which results in higher U.S. inflation. Influence of a strong home currency. Central banks may also implement direct intervention to strengthen their home currency, which can reduce the country's inflation. A strong home currency increases the purchasing power of local consumers and corporations that buy goods from other countries. This situation intensifies foreign competition and forces domestic produce to refrain from increasing prices. Therefore, the country's overall inflation rate should be lower if its currency is stronger, other things being equal. The top part of exhibit shows how the Federal Reserve can use direct intervention to affect the dollar value and thus reduce U.S. inflation. Although a strong currency might cure high inflation, it might also increase home unemployment because foreign products become less expensive. A currency ideal value depends on the perspective of the country and the official who must make such a decision. The strength or weakness of a currency is just one of many factors that influence a country's economic condition. Number 2, speculating on direct intervention. Some traders in the foreign exchange market attempt to determine when and to what extent the Federal Reserve will intervene so that they can capitalize on the anticipated result of the intervention effort. A. Speculating on intervention intended to strengthen a currency. If speculators anticipate that a central bank will attempt to strengthen a specific currency and also believe that the intervention will have its desired effect. They may take a position in that currency. In this way, they are able to purchase the currency at a lower price than the price at which they can sell the currency after the central bank intervention has had its effect. B. Speculating on intervention intended to weaken a currency. Alternative, if they anticipated that a central bank will attempt to weaken a specific currency and also believe that the intervention will have its desired effect, they may take short position in that currency by borrowing that currency and exchange it for other currency. Then they can receive their transaction after the intervention has occurred. The obvious risk to their speculative strategy is that their expectation about a central bank intervening or the effect of the direct intervention may be wrong. C. Central bank effort to disguise its strategy. The Federal normally attempts to intervene without being noticed. However, dealers at the major bank that trade with the Federal often transmit the information to other market participants. Also, when the Federal deals directly with numerous commercial banks, markets are well aware that the Federal is intervening. To hide its strategy, the Federal may pretend to be interested in selling dollars when it is actually buying dollars, or vice versa. It calls commercial banks and obtains both the bid and ask quotes on currency. That way, the banks will not know whether the Federal is considering purchase or sale of the currency. Okay, next. Government control of interest rates. When the central bank of country increase or reduce interest rates, this may have an indirect effect on the value of their currency. When the Federal Reserve reduces United States interest rate, United States investors may transfer funds to other countries to capitalize on higher interest rates. This action reflects an increase in demand for other currency and places upward pressure on this currency against the dollar. Conversely, in the Federal raise United States interest rates, foreign investors may transfer funds to the United States, to capitalize on a higher United States interest rates, especially if expected in the United States is relatively low. This action reflects an increase in the supply of a foreign currency to be exchanged for dollar in the foreign exchange market, and it placed downward pressure on this currency against the dollar. If the country experiences a currency crisis, its central bank may raise interest rates in order to prevent a major flow of funds out of the country. Russia attracts a large amount of foreign funds from investors who want to capitalize on Russia's growth. However, when the Russian economy weakens, foreign investors flood the foreign exchange market with Russian rubles for other currency, so that they can transfer their money to other countries. The Russian central bank may raise interest rates so that the foreign investor will earn a higher yield on security if they left their funds in Russia. However, if investors still anticipate a major withdrawal of funds for the country, they will rush to sell their rubles before the value of its currency falls. This action by investors caused the ruble's value decline substantially. The preceding example reflects the situation of countries that experienced a currency crisis in the past, including many Southeast Asian countries and many countries in Latin America. Some developing countries such as Argentina and Russia have experienced multiple currency crises. In 2014, the value of Russian ruble declined by more than 50% against some currency due to economic and political problems. The Russian central bank directed the intervention of buying rubles in the foreign exchange market with its reserve of other currency was ineffective. The Russian central bank also attempted indirect intervention by raising interest rates substantially to encourage local investors to invest in Russian money market security. However, many investors moved their money into the other more stable currency, which perpetuated the decline in the ruble. A central bank's indirect intervention commonly fails to prevent withdrawal of funds during a crisis and also increase the financing costs of the country firms. This can reduce the amount of corporate borrowing and spending in a country, which might cause of the economy to weaken further. In many cases, a currency crisis may not be avoided unless the underlying problems such as political instability is resolved, but a central bank is normally not the cause of political problem, and it might have very little control over them. Next, government use of foreign exchange control. Some governments attempt to use foreign exchange control, such as restriction on the exchange of the currency, as a from indirect intervention to maintain the exchange rate of their currency. China has historically used foreign exchange restriction to control the yuan exchange rate, but has partly removed this restriction in recent years. Intervention warning. A central bank may announce that it is strongly considering intervention. Such announcement may be intended to warn speculators who are taking position in a currency that benefit from appreciation and in its value. And in intervention warning could discourage additional speculation and might even encourage some speculators to unwind or liquidate their existing position in the currency. In this case, there would be a large supply of that currency for sale in the foreign exchange market, which would tend to reduce its value. Thus, the central bank might more effectively achieve its goal to reduce the local currency value, with an intervention warning that with actual intervention. Next, I am going to explain how central bank intervention can reduce inflation. Once again, the central bank can make direct or indirect intervention to maintain their country's economy. For the first example, we know that the intervention made by the Federal Reserve can result in higher inflation. So, here we are going to discuss what intervention that Federal uses or makes to reduce inflation. For direct intervention, the Federal may use foreign currency reserve to purchase dollar. That purchase meant strengthening that US dollar against currency. In other words, the US dollar becomes appreciated. That situation can increase the purchasing power of local consumers and firms that buy inventories or supplies from other countries. The strong currency could also force domestic firms to refrain from increasing the price of their products due to neck competition with foreign competitor firms. It means that the cost of United States import decreases and the market becomes competitive, since the United States firms need to keep their price at a lower benchmark. So, to make things equal and cure high inflation, they further lower the country's overall inflation. However, it should be noted that strong currency might increase unemployment because foreign products become quite affordable or less expensive. For indirect intervention, the Federal Reserve decided to increase the U.S. interest rate. The Federal can tailor its monetary policy to encourage or discourage people from borrowing, spending, and investing. A higher federal funds rate means more expensive borrowing costs, which can reduce demand among banks and other financial institutions to borrow money. Who benefit the most when interest rates increase? The financial sector has historically been among the most sensitive to change in interest rates, with profit margins that expand a right climb. Entities like banks, insurance companies, brokerage firms, and money managers generally benefit from higher interest rates. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.